WEAK, willing to express adult kindness. Brothers, try it. Try it and see what happens.
Yes, that's what I'm talking. I saw your shirt that says "Humankind be both." Oh, yeah. Like this is the next one, right? You have a shirt with this one? You have a shirt like this
one? I do not. No, okay. I do
not. Willing to express adult kindness.
Yeah. So when you call me weak, I say thank you, brother.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Yes,
you're right. Because you know what I tell folks? I was 50 years old when my son took his life. At that point in my life, I was in the best shape I'd ever been, Ashanti. I benched 400 pounds, squat 550, deadlift 550, but I wasn't strong enough to save a life. You know why? Because I had that misconstrued masculinity when I should have been weak. I should have been, how are you feeling, son? Oh, don't give me that. I'm good. Talk to me. You don't seem right.
Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm really glad you've joined us. Today's guest is Phillip Tyler. When you look at his bio, you would say this man has done everything. He's done so many different types of jobs. He's had so many experiences. But when you hear this conversation, you're going to hear that he's also been through a lot. One of the things that stood out to me in this conversation was that we recorded it on the anniversary of his son's death. And when I heard him say it, I actually couldn't think of what to say, so I just took a breath and paused. But my heart was feeling it. I think the best way I can say it. My heart was feeling for him, and I wanted to figure out how to support. And I really just told him thank you for showing up here on this show the day of this anniversary. And the work that I have learned from him and the work that he's doing is really helping people navigate the emotional overload of things that we don't talk about, the masks. You know, there's this idea of a father wound that you may have heard of. And the father wound, in my own definition, and there's lots of definitions out there, is the results of what happens when a relationship with a father does not go well and the resulting wounding that happens to the children. Whether it's a male, whether it's a female, whatever identifying body, the child receives something. Whether the relationship is positive or negative, there's a connection that happens in there. And the wounding can happen forever. You know, a wound, it keeps oozing. You keep feeling it. You keep touching it. It's not scarred over yet. It's not a father scar. It's sometimes a father wound, but the wound can be healed. In this conversation, you're going to hear this father navigating that journey. I think there's so many things that we don't get to talk about, especially fathers. And so I'm so thankful for Phillip for having this conversation with me. Maybe you already noticed that I'm on location here. I'm trying to do my best for those who are watching, but there's a tree behind me. I'm here in Guadalajara, and this tree has no leaves. It's kind of like, if you see it, it's like a tree with no leaves, but there's these stirring circles that look like fireballs. And as I was looking at this earlier this morning, I was thinking, wow, like what imagery from my own life of growing up without a father, but growing up knowing that there was a father there at some point, but he was gone before I showed up, so never got to meet him. He died before I was born. And the wound that I feel from my father is not the father wound that behaviors that he did caused on me, but his absence created something in me. And as I look at this tree with these branches that are swirling and these fireballs, and I can think of all the times in my life where I really just needed someone. I needed to talk to someone. I needed to explore what was going on with me. And I always went back to, I'm fine. Reverted back to, I'm fine. I got this. I got this figured out. You know, I'm learning through not only the shirt, but also through the work, is that when I hear my young men say, no, it's good, I got it. And I always give them room to leave it that way. Okay. And I always let them know that when you decide that you had enough holding it by yourself, you got somebody here with you. That you may feel you are supposed to do it by yourself and you need to do it by yourself, and I'm not going to take that from you, but you don't have to do it by yourself. I think we all need to hear that sometimes. We need to understand that as much as we're strong enough to probably handle it by ourselves up to a certain extent, because the explosions come all the time. And we see it happen in our cities over and over again. The explosions, the emotional overload of behaviors and attitudes and stuff that just keeps showing up. I don't know what city you live in or where you're listening to this podcast from, but maybe you've seen in your city explosions of young people who are showing up and telling us that they can't hold it all together. Because they could, we wouldn't see the outpouring of behaviors that we see. But guess what? They need to talk about it too. So hopefully these conversations begin to make that easier to do. And if you haven't done a mask yet, listen, please, we invite you to do it now. Tell someone about it. Be a part of this movement in more ways than you can imagine by sharing it with somebody in your life. The front of the mask, the things that we gladly let the world see. The back of the mask, the things that we don't talk much about. And guess what? With that, you will realize that there's more to you than anybody can see by looking at you. There's more to me than people can see by looking at me. And I'm inviting you to be on this journey with us as we continue helping people take off the mask safely, caring in an environment where it feels like I want to do this and I can do this and know that I'm going to still be able to save face and feel respected. I got a Christmas card this year, a holiday greeting card from a young man, and it said, "Dear Mr. Branch, thank you for creating a safe space so I can talk about what I don't usually get to talk about." And that was what it said. And for me, that's the best gift I can get. Thank you for being a part of this movement with us. Thank you. Please share, like, subscribe, tell somebody about what you're hearing here. And we hope that these conversations will open you up to having conversations. If you know somebody we should talk to, please reach out to us on social media. Let us know. And we look forward to inviting more men on the show. And stay tuned because you're going to meet our youth host in about 2 weeks. So we look forward to you meeting our new youth host. And we'll see you soon, folks. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Phillip Tyler, I'm so glad to have you here with us today.
Man, it is an honor and a pleasure. I'm humbled to be here, Ashanti, and I can't wait for us to chop it up today.
Oh man, well, I am. Our guests get to just start off by introducing themselves. Like, what is it you want folks to know about you? We're going to share these masks, but what is it background information you want people to know about you before we jump in?
Yeah, so I'm a 55-year-old Black male raised by two Black parents from the South during the Jim Crow era when they were born. I'm a former military member, United States Air Force, just like my father and his father was. I spent 16 years with the Sheriff's Department. I was a lieutenant in charge of downtown jail operations. I was a former NAACP president here in Spokane, Washington. And now I serve as the Crime Prevention Education Officer with Gonzaga University here in Spokane. Go Zags.
Nice. That is awesome, man. And you said your father and grandfather, so is that third generation?
Yes, sir.
Right on. Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
No, for sure. And what's deep about that is, my father's father was the first to really have some experience with mental health and wearing the mask when he came back from the war during his time. He didn't have any terminology for PTSD and those kind of things back in the day, right? He was called criminally insane. He ended up killing our grandmother as a result of the horrors he saw in the war. And they just criminally incarcerated him in this mental institution. And you layer that on with years and years of having to deal with that throughout your family, and you can see why certain things happen in folks' lives. We call them ACEs now. There was no terminology for it back then. But you fast forward, and I lose my son to suicide 5 years ago today. Today's the 5th anniversary, as a matter of fact, Ashanti, of his passing. And you ask the questions why, and you try to figure out, these answers. The modals of missed opportunity, the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. We may never have the answers, but it's conversations like this with other strong Black men that are really going to help not only me in my healing journey, but others that listen to your podcast.
Oh man. Well, first, thank you for sharing that. And I imagine over the years, people try and find the right words. I don't think I'm that special with words, but I just let you know that my heart is is here for whatever part of this conversation that needs to support that. And this is anniversary day. And, my father died before I was born. So when you said, your father and grandfather, like I was feeling a loss, right? I was feeling I felt like a wave of emotion, like that just kind of washed over, right? I'm really good about keeping it below the radar, but I felt that. And leading up to my birth, like I lost both my father and my grandfather 3 months before I was born. So like but they didn't leave me a legacy, they didn't leave me here's a career you could try. Here's a thing that you could do to, like, they didn't leave me any of that. And so thank you. So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's so huge for all of us that we can easily walk around all day smiling, talking about all the stuff on the outside and never know that right next to us is a man who's today is maybe carrying a load that we couldn't even see. It's an invisible load. Well, I won't call it a load for you. Like when I'm carrying baggage, like it sometimes feel like I'm moving slower through the world, right?
Yes, sir.
And I'm expected to just, because no one can see it. You can't see me carrying a load. So you should be like, why are you not energetic? Why are you not happy? Why are you not? And it's those invisible loads that sometimes are the heaviest,
Man, it is part of my mask. In all honesty, Ashanti,
Yeah.
it is. And I recognize that, and which is why I'm here today with you. To address those things.
Well, man, I think we get to jump in, and thank you, man. It's already starting. Welcome to the show. I already feel it. I'm feeling it already. So you as a guest get to decide who goes first. Either you want me to go first to share my mask, or you want to go first, and as a guest, you get to choose.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about this since your producer sent me this exercise and instruction. I will say this. I'll preface this. I'm no Jean Michel. As an artiste. So let me see if I can get this up there.
Oh,
there we go, right there.
Okay.
And so it's a smiling face, with a scar along the left eye. And the 3 words I put along side of it are professional, outgoing, and hardworking. Now, the converse, what I keep hidden from the world, save today's conversation, is imposter syndrome, ongoing pain, emotional, kind of a John Henryism kind of pain, and ambivert.
That's a new word. Can you tell me first, but maybe our audience, what that word means?
Yeah, ambivert. So we know the introvert and extrovert, right? Some folks like to be outgoing. Some folks like to be by themselves. Ambivert is an individual that's equally comfortable in both spaces. I can be outgoing. I can speak at TEDx. I can speak at national conferences, but I also prefer the company of myself often.
Okay.
And I think that helps me to in the Air Force, we call it re-blue. To regain myself, because sometimes I get wore down, and that goes to that John Henryism, where I'm constantly fighting the fatigue, where I'm pushing up against the system, the structures. I work in academia, so I'm pushing up against that too, and it fatigues me, physically and emotionally. Then you layer that with the imposter syndrome, where I'm always feeling like I'm not qualified to be in the spaces that I'm in. I'm working hard, just like he was raised, twice as hard, as the white man, to get the success I've gotten, and whenever I come up against failure or even an obstacle, Ashanti, I start getting that questioning about myself, and internalizing these things and these doubts. But you wouldn't know that because I'm good at the math. My father taught us as children, myself and my 3 sisters, that we were the original bilingual people, because we had to learn how to code switch instantly from grade school on, and I've simply perfected that along with the mask.
Ooh-wee. The original code switchers. Powerful. I think as I'm thinking about even today, like, first of all, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that mask. I think about, let me share mine, and then maybe
Yes, sir.
It'll take off from there, because I'm really, lots of things you said are standing out to me, but I think that idea of what was the word again? The
Ambivert.
mixture. Ambivert. I actually I've never really. I like people, and I do like my quiet time. Like I want like sometimes I'm just like on a Saturday, I'm like I'm gonna go out and do XYZ, and then I look up and I'm like at the house. It's like 6 p.m. I'm like, I should be doing something. But technically, I don't really even want to leave. Right? I'm like,
that's it right there. That's
in that
it right
moment
there.
of just like sometimes feeling like I should be, because it's just a story that I've integrated. But it's a word that I'm going to add to my lexicon today. So thank you for that. All right. Okay. So this one is interesting. So this is the mask I drew today. This is the mask. That's the mask I drew today. And on the front, I wrote passionate, like dedicated. I wrote intense, and I wrote on edge. And I'm not sure why I wrote on edge today. I was like thinking, I don't want to write that word, but a word was calling me. Like I think on the outside, when I think on edge, I don't think of it in a negative way, but I think of it more of like I always got stuff going. Like I'm always like on the edge of like one next jump to the next jump to the next jump. I'm like, I got like, I'm always, sometimes I feel like I'm like, it's stirring, right? I'm like in a stirring, like I'm like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, why am I so like amped up? Like I'm always like amped up, like, right? I mean, maybe I'll drink some energy drinks that sometimes does that, right? But ultimately, it's like, oh no, I got stuff to do. It's like if I was like to go somewhere and people like, what's happening or what's going on, I feel like I'm trying to answer 8 questions at the same time. Like, okay, well, I got this thing I'm working on. That's work, and this is work, and then this is project, and this is vision, and this is purpose, and this is life, and this is family, and I don't always answer those questions to everyone, but I think sometimes I'm like trying to like name why I feel in a way, sometimes like just like so much stuff, right?
Yeah.
I remember once I was talking to when I got my first coach. I mean, I have my first coach now. Our first conversation, I was like, so how much should I be telling you? Like, I want to be able to trust this space, but how much should I be telling you? He said, well, just start talking, and I'll just and I'll just listen, and I'll just kind of chime in, right? And I never had a coach before, but it was paid for by this grant that I have, so I'm like super excited, and I got some help possibly. And I start. I mean, I just start, and literally, we're on phone, so I can't see the person. Normally, if you see somebody's body language, you lighten up when you can feel them. You giving too much, but I was just like on a roll, right? And he's like, "Okay, can I slow you down for a second?" I said, "Oh yeah." He was like. This is what he said. I got, he's like, that's a lot. And it was this moment of like, oh yeah, what did I actually say? I think I've been carrying all of this stuff for so long, and having to carry it as a leader, as an organizational leader, as an entrepreneur, as the boss. Like I never had a space to like talk about all the stuff that I'm constantly processing all the time.
Man.
And he was like that. He said, it sounds like there's a lot going on. I said, yeah. And it's been just him slowly helping to unravel, take the braid out of all of those things that I'm like trying to like navigate solo. As a solopreneur, sometimes feel like that, right?
Sure.
But I think that's been really a powerful one, and so
helpful. Sound like.
Oh, it has been. I mean, I wish I had learned about having a coach before. I didn't know that I needed it as much as I did having one.
Wow. Watch this, Ashanti.
Yeah.
You described talking just so quickly and releasing everything. When I went to my first counseling session after the loss of my son, the counselor asked me, what would it look like for Phil to just be a hot chocolate mess? And I said to her, I have no idea, because I would never allow that previously. And then when I did, that sounded like like you. I was just pop, 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 bam, 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 unload both barrels. She was like, I was in front of her, so I could see her. And she was like, okay, you got a lot going on, and she just let me talk. So I can appreciate exactly what you're saying,
Oh man. And imagine like how many people never let that stuff go. Like just walk around, operate through life, trying to keep it all in
Yes,
here,
sir.
trying
Yes,
to keep a
sir.
smile on. And some have not, they can't find the smile. So there's no smile, but you're like, is everything okay? And you're like, yeah, I'm fine. What are you talking about? Why are you asking me if I'm fine? Like, there's an expression that's happening on the outside that I don't know if you know, but when I became a teacher, same way. Like you see students who are like walking around, and I told them, I said, you walk around like a landmine, like you don't even see it from yourself. But what I'm seeing is every time someone says something to you or gets in a radius of you that you have not defined, so no one knows when they're in the radius, you've now like exploded on people and they didn't even know. They did,
Wow.
you didn't even know, so they can't know. But you think everyone's supposed to know that you're in a bad mood, or everyone should know that you were. And I think that what I try to help those young men see is like there's so much more to you than people can see, and maybe you would hope that people could read you, but it's not possible. I've had young men as a math teacher. I was the only black male teacher at this school, so these other young men in my class, I have
And
young
this was
men
in
yelling. I was in the San Lorenzo, which is right down the street.
Okay, all right, yeah. Damn.
The teacher students yelling at me. I'm like, hey, slow down. Why are you yelling at me? Like, I ain't your enemy. I like you. I think you're cool. Like, why are you? You never heard me yell. And so I think like when you help like replay to them what you experienced, because as a teacher, what they're expecting is I'm gonna yell back, and then we in a battle of wit and power. Now, ultimately, as a teacher, power wise, teachers have all this power. Students have their peers. So you can create an adversarial situation where now you're gonna get some brownie points with your peers because you're gonna cuss the teacher out. But the relationship with the teacher has now been severed, or maybe dangerously, in problem. And what I've had to do with those young men is say, look, I'm not your enemy. So I'm not sure if you have enemies here, but I'm not one of them. And I only want you to succeed. So what caused you to think that yelling at me was a good idea? Like, what made you? Because in my gut, like the 17, 15-year-old in me wants to like win the argument, wants to like come back with the same amount of aggression that they came with me at, but knowing that it's never going to work.
There's no success in that.
There's no success there. There's no win. There's no win there. There's only deeper dragging into and what they actually are looking for is connection, I think, a lot of times, but they can't ask for connection. What you gonna ask this teacher, this power figure, this black man, and especially if you've never, like, for young men in my community, a lot of them who didn't have fathers growing up, you never had a man like chastise you, and now you're like, you feel like you're under threat. You feel like you're under attack. And I'm like, I'm not here to attack you. I told you to pull your pencil out. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a threat. That's a statement of direction, right? And I think all those pieces is how often those young men are walking around just stirred up and like a soda. You know what I'm saying? Like a pressure cooker, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to open the top, and the top gets open before you let the pressure release, and now you've made a mess, or you probably hurt someone pretty bad.
For sure.
Yeah. And the back, I didn't share the back, but the back of mine said fear, worry, and doubt.
Look at that.
That those are the ones that behind the mask that I try and do the best job of, like, and in these conversations I get to have more talk about them. But before I started this podcast, like, I'm good. I'm good. I'm fine. Fine. Everything's fine. Right? Like that part, right? Yeah. And you in the military, I mean, maybe that's one thoughtful question I have, or curiosity. You get trained to keep it all cool, right? You're trained to be under these stressful situations and these tense situations.
For sure.
And so they have to train you to, like, not show stuff, right? Because your job is to always have it all figured out,
Yeah, or to appear that way at least.
Or to appear that way at least, yeah.
When I went into the service at 17 years old, and I remember I witnessed my first suicide at 17 in the barracks there in San Antonio. And I remember this is how quickly we become socialized and acculturated to how men, and I use that term in air quotes, Ashanti, are supposed to behave. The DI, the drill instructor, came in, shouted us all out of the barracks, They took away the body. And after the body was taken away, they paraded us back in there. And he proceeded to tell us this gentleman was weak. He would have never made it in our military. You don't want him by your bedside. Whoop-de-whoop. We better press on. We've got 6 weeks left. And we just went about our business and didn't even talk about it.
Wow.
Now, that's a shame. It's still a human life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to think that things are different now. That was many years ago.
Yeah.
But statistics would bear out that it may not be that much different.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. That is, I truly believe it. I can imagine it, but it's also like, how do you continue? There's a book by Oprah and this doctor. I had it right here. I can't see it in a moment. It's called "What Happened to You." Like sometimes we ask people like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, "What's wrong with you?" As opposed to like, what the thing that happened to you. Two siblings, two people in the same family can experience the same type of stuff in the home or in the community, but what happens inside of you is very different.
Yes.
Even though you witnessed and saw the same thing, right? And I think how often do we think that because, oh, well, you haven't been through what I've been through, so you can't be feeling XYZ. I think we sometimes don't even dismiss. And for like this person, imagine that man who told you all that had to at least have either have a script programmed in him enough,
sure,
or he had to actually believe that is true, and it's sad, right? Because we experienced that, right?
Look, the reality is, Ashanti, and I think you would agree with me. We are all formed, either malformed, deformed, conformed, or transformed, and that should have transformed me. It didn't. It conformed me to what the military wanted me to be. I wasn't transformed as a man until I was 50 years old when my son took his life. You see what I'm saying? And so what my hope is in communicating with brothers like yourself is that we can use this space to help transform other men, young and old, because we are getting malformed, deformed, and conformed based on our social situation, racism in this world, many things, right? Terminology, right? Men are toxic masculinity, and we don't go out there purposely intending to create bad young men, but we have had a misconstrued conception of that masculinity that we have been taught all of our lives. And so my hope is that, because we're all formed creatures, we will do some transforming through our conversations today.
Oh man, I love the way you said that. Can you say it again? That was that was fire right. That was fire right there. I'll tell you. I was like, wait a minute, you gotta say that again. Wait, we are all formed.
We're all formed. Yeah. We're either malformed, deformed, conformed, or transformed. And just talking with you since we connected via LinkedIn, I've been transformed. I've been tapping into the TEDx, to the videos, to the interviews, to the podcast, and that's my hope in coming on. Like we said in the sidebar before we started here, this is an opportunity for men to listen and explore and discuss those things that they otherwise wouldn't have, and they come out here saying, "Well, damn, they didn't call each other out their name. They wasn't fighting about nothing, arguing. I guess it is possible to have a relationship with other men.
Absolutely, safely,
yeah."
I don't know if you've seen the recent post. It was a 5-minute little clip by Trevor Noah where he talked about men and intimacy, and it was a study that he was referring to where he says that men are not having as much sex as they want, right, in the world, right, and that was where the study was from. But he said his context was that what he believes, and I found a lot of it to be resonant, is like that men want more intimacy because I know it to be true for myself, but I've definitely when I was a teenager, hearing my friends talk about their escapades.
Mm-hmm.
My friends were having sex way before me. So, and we talked about it in algebra class. So I was in 9th grade. That's where my sex ed happened, in 9th grade in algebra class in the back of the room, because all the dudes in the back of the room had all kind of stories. I didn't have no stories, but I listened in. And it was almost like this thing where it's like, it was almost like a task. it was almost like as I look back to those stories in the moment, I'm just like mesmerized that these guys are, and they're talking about girls that are in the room that we're in, right? This is what they're talking about. Whether they're true or not, I don't know. But all I know is I was interested in hearing it. And what I recognized was that it was a task. It was, I did this, I accomplished this, I conquered this. But it wasn't that, even thinking about like, were they feeling more connected? No, it was more of like, okay, next week I got another task to do. And it was always like a tasky thing that was happening in this connection. But I think even we talk about, young men today who get connected to sex through their phones, right? Who gets connected to pornography. I think this idea of intimacy, we're not supposed to want it. We're not supposed to want close friendships and connections. We're supposed to want to conquer.
Yeah.
In lots of communities, definitely in the community I'm here in Oakland, right? That's our young men are in that mind. Even younger, like middle school, they're in this idea of like, oh yeah, and you hear them whispering to each other. They think they're whispering. They're not whispering. They're actually talking super loud. I'm like, dude, you're not whispering. So if you're gonna talk about that nonsense, like don't talk about it around me because you're being disrespectful. But like you should be whispering that. Like that should not be a statement that's louder than. But what they're in their mind, that's how they show their prowess. They show their bravado. And I think that idea of men wanting to have deep connections that we're taught, they're trained not to. You're trained not to do that, right?
No, I hadn't saw that clip, but there was a New York Times article I read recently that was similar to what Trevor was saying. Essentially, that we have too few close friends. And it's because of this social conditioning, just as you described, that we don't do that. Part of that fear of intimacy, right? Man, I can't share my deepest sessions like, you did with your coach, I did with my counselor. I can't do that with Ashanti, just, chopping it up. Like we used to do in the barbershop back in the day when we was getting cut. You'd hear everybody's business in there, right? And the barber, my barber was Larry. Larry was the counselor of the community. You had to leave your beeper outside. No, don't bring any beef in here. And just tell us about your stuff. But we have changed that.
Yeah.
And it's odd because here's what the funny thing is: we have been placed in a box, men, particularly Black young men, and we have been forced then, Ashanti, to wear our mask.
Yeah.
But watch this. It's ironic because on one hand, a Black man knows if you put a mask on your face, well, you're subject to even more discrimination, disparate treatment, police abuses, etc. Yet, we do it ourselves to hide just what you said, creating that pressure cooker, creating that time bomb, creating those boundaries unseen.
That's right.
So the next person violates it, and we snap.
Boom.
It don't make sense. If we create culture, and Black folks been creating culture forever.
Yeah.
We've created this culture of the mask. We can remove this.
And I still have plenty of masks over here by my desk. And when we began to like put on these masks, right? Like I felt when I first got to start going out and going to get groceries, I'm 6'1", and I'm a big dude, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm like walking down the aisle of the I'm in the parking lot of the grocery store. I'm just trying to go get groceries, but now I got a mask over my face, right? Like I felt myself getting anxious for other people. Like, okay, is this person going to start like inching away? Like they already, you already see it happen in certain communities when you're just walking down the street. But now I'm wearing a mask on my face in addition to this other belief that you have about who I am because of what you see on the outside.
For sure.
And I think it becomes like, oh, so my mask on the outside world is always just put on a smile so no one feels threatened, right? Put on a smile so no one feels like they have to worry. Yeah. And when you get this mask on, now they can't see that you're trying to smile at them, right? And now you're like,
yes, sir.
And I remember just like I was in BART, the metro station here once, and I was like walking, and this person was walking towards me, and I was like, okay, where am I going to walk? I was trying to walk around them. Not that I was worried about them. I was trying to like protect myself from them worrying about me. And it was like
that's heavy. That's heavy right there.
It's heavy. It's a load. it's an invisible load.
Yeah.
And I felt myself like feeling like, because the passage was kind of small. So I'm like walking as close as I can to the edge of the track, because like where I'm at in this space, like it's not a whole lot of room there, but I'm trying to like, and I felt myself like,
messing around
Ashanti,
falling on a third rail to protect somebody else's comfort.
oh my goodness.
See,
I felt it like in my body, and I was like, how many other people are feeling this?
Yep.
How many other people are walking around and don't have the metacognition to be able to say, oh, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? To be able to go out and say, oh, I'm doing this to myself right now. No one's doing this to me right now. I'm making up a story that I'm now playing out in a way that is not, that's forming me to be. I'm not even helping myself. I'm in a deformed way of being. Like, why is he walking so close to the tracks? Right? Like, that kind of malformed, right?
And we look at it from a standpoint, Ashanti, that somehow we think we can outrun these fears or doubts, man. But look, we know this, right? From the time of the mother country.
Yeah.
You don't outrun a predator. If you run from a predator, it chases you. Our fears, our self-doubts, our imposter syndrome. I just keep running from that nonsense. It's the predator. Yeah. The predator chases what runs. That's until we stand and confront it. Okay.
Standing confront, man. That's been my message over the last couple of weeks. It's like, what are the fears, worries, and doubts that I'm constantly trying not to show, because I'm not facing them. I'm trying to like ignore that they're actually happening, but they're happening, and then you end up just running back into them because when you can't see them, you ran away from it. Now it's tripping you all up everywhere because you're not in control of it. You're not in like, oh, this is fear coming up. Fear of being a failure is coming up. So I'm trying to like work 18 hours a day,
there it
borrowing
is.
hours on tomorrow.
There it is.
Right? Doubt's coming in. So I'm operating out of a place of doubt because I'm having a hard time trusting and asking for help because I don't want to look in all the ways that I run, and I find myself falling, and I'm like, why am I getting tripped up? Well, because you're not dealing with the situations. You're like, do you want to see it? Like, see it, name it. So then you can be like, oh, this is my stuff. It's not even real. And that part,
But look, you because of that mask, we can't heal what we don't reveal. So if we keep it hidden to your mask context, it'll never heal because we always have it concealed.
That's right. Something I've been thinking about, and thank you for just naming this, as being two black men who are having this conversation. I was, I have been hesitant to make posts about what I see in the world. I mean, and I'm an educator. I'm a person who is passionate about education. And when I started seeing these parents come into these school board meetings talking about not talking about race, to talk about this is making our kids like, I began to feel like tension, like wanting to say something, like wanting to and also because I work in schools on the outside, I'm also like, well, I don't want to make people see the anger that I feel around these things. So I'm like, I operated based on just being silent. I say, oh, I won't say anything. And then I feel like a coward and a chicken who is seeing these behaviors happening in the world and knowing that I have a thought about it that is not that I think could help people. And I think there's the most recent one that stood out to me was the Jerry Jones photo that came out, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think for those who haven't, there's a photo of Jerry Jones. He's a white NFL owner, billionaire,
America's team,
who is at one of the high schools in Little Rock. This is when the school segregation was being kind of eliminated, and he's in one of the photos. And here's where I have come to a thought about, and I want to just share this with you because I think I could take off this part of this mask with you right here, is that I've also thought that a lot of these people who are trying to erase the fact that there has been horrific things happening to people in this country, let's start with the native peoples.
For sure.
Start with slavery. Let's talk with all immigrants have had some many immigrants. I say all have had some challenge with this country, right? Because they came and said we're going to do it our way. We're going to ignore everybody else, our power, and I think that has happened. But also the idea of wanting to eliminate. When I think about these pictures that I've seen of people celebrating, posing underneath bodies hanging from trees.
Yeah.
Like how many those people in those pictures are the families of some people in this country?
Got to be. Yeah.
And how often was wondered, like, are people just embarrassed of their family history? Are they embarrassed of how? He's just like, oh well, you know what? We don't want those pictures ever be seen again. Like that's my uncle, that's my grandfather, that's my whoever. And now I have to be like, I don't want to see those pictures. I don't want nobody to see those pictures. So I can eliminate them from being real or being that they don't exist. I don't want anybody in the history books to see, oh, that's actually our grandfather on that picture who was standing underneath, posing under a body hanging from a tree. And I wonder how many people are trying to erase the fact that they are a part of it, whether they were participating in it, that their history, that their thought that they're just so smart and so talented and so whatever is maybe not all that true.
Yeah. Ashanti, I think it is their mask. And again, if we are running from our stuff, our self-doubt, our unworthiness in our own eyes, we projected our imposter syndrome. They doing the same thing. I'm not giving them a pass for what they do and what they try. But I would tell you this, my friend, because you have an ability to articulate well in these things. I have taught classes and sessions up here about white privilege and discrimination and treatment. And here's a tool I use that worked really well. Yeah. You remember, and you probably will as an educator, remember those mind's eye 3D posters? You know, all those wavy lines, you had to look at it for a minute, like, I don't see no shark in here. And you're like, man, the shark is right there.
Yeah.
That's white privilege. Because we see it every single day. But to some folk, they looking and they never see it. But when they do, Ashanti, they're like, oh, damn. What else have I missed? Yeah. What else have I missed? Try it.
Yeah.
Try it. Because it's so easy for us to see the image. Yeah. But some don't.
That's right.
You know, and all I'm saying is look deeper. That's all I'm saying. But look deeper. And when you see it, you'll ask yourself, damn, what else have I missed?
That's right. Oh, yeah. What a beautiful analogy for that, right?
Yeah.
Like if I have not noticed, and I think that's even true for my own self. Like before I noticed that I had an addiction to flour and sugar, I just thought that flour and sugar were so delicious and most people couldn't get the fact that they were amazing, right? Like,
well, you ain't lying.
Like, and I was like, what do you mean you don't know how amazing this fluffy, powdery, sweet thing is? Like you're missing out, right? Yeah. And until I realized, oh, you are just Ashanti, you have an unhealthy relationship with this. You don't. It's not that you think they're delicious; it's that you go to it every time. You don't want to deal with something real, and therefore, it's not that it's not good; it's that it's not good the way you're using it.
You couldn't see it till you saw it.
You couldn't see it till you saw it,
and that's what that image depicts, right?
Yeah.
You know, I can tell you there's a shark inside that image all day long. You like, Phil, I don't see no shark. That's right. Like it's blue, but I don't see no shark.
That's right.
And then it pops. And then you're like, damn.
Oh, man.
Damn, I see it. What else have I missed?
Wow. I think so many pieces. And I thank you for saying that. I've been hesitant to like bring this out because I've been like, I can't stop like thinking of it, right? Like this idea that how do we help people recognize that fear, worry, and doubt will cause us to sometimes if we run like the same thing we talked about, running from it as opposed to facing it. Oh, we don't want our kids to feel bad about themselves. Why do they have to feel bad about themselves? Right. Like, why does history have to make you feel bad about yourself? They weren't here. But to have them ignore it, to run from it, causes them only to get tripped up in a world where they're like, you can't deny the fact that there were these things that happened here. It's recorded. It wasn't like it was, these people who have done horrible things. It's so funny of how many of them recorded themselves doing it.
Mm-hmm. Postcards, pictures,
That got
all that.
mailed to people's
Yes,
houses
sir.
around the country
Yes,
with
sir.
stamps on them. That part,
Smiling.
oh man, oh man,
Yeah.
oh man. That part was when I first saw that. My mind was like, I'm like, that is not a real postcard. Like, no, yes. Look, read the. This is from, you hear them writing a note to their cousin across the
Mm-hmm.
country. You're just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, you actually bragged about it.
Yeah. And you know what that has done to many Black Native American in this country? It has stripped us, robbed us from the ability to really connect with nature. I don't go camping because of that very
Mm,
history that I'm continuing to run from. Every time I go near the woods, I hear the song "Strange Fruit," and I'm like, well,
mm,
uh, 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 nope, go the other way.
yeah, yeah,
But see, that fear has robbed me of experiencing some things that my brother-in-law, he's from Georgia, man, they hunt
yeah.
and they fish, and brother, you need to get out here in these elements. It's good for you to get. No, man, I don't know how y'all doing it in Savannah, Georgia. They got Herschel Walker running down there. Come on, man. Nope.
Man, oh man, that song. Every time that song passes my ears, I have goosebumps. And I have
Yeah.
goosebumps even just naming the song. I can hear her voice. I heard the Nina Simone
Yep.
version first in
Yep.
my life, so that's the version that when I hear it, when I hear
Always
the words of
sticks.
that song, I hear her voice and I feel it. I mean, it's just like it's almost like it's I can't even turn it off sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, you know, man. First of all, thank you for this conversation. I'm so thankful. I guess maybe just because you mentioned it at the beginning, at the top of the show, and I would like to ask for those fathers out there who are, and I don't know, I imagine you may do some work around this. I don't know how even to ask the question. I feel myself stuttering asking the question because I'm trying to be really protective of you in that way. So yeah, wow, I feel myself. I can't ask the question, so apologize. How have you navigated the journey you've been on as a father, and is there advice you have for fathers out there? Because me as a young man who didn't grow up with a father, I feel that emptiness. But for fathers who are trying to raise their sons and who are maybe have teenage sons who are in that age of like they don't talk, they're in the
Mm-hmm.
devices, they're like, is there any maybe advice or thoughts or words of encouragement that you have for those fathers? I don't know what question I should be asking right now, but I just wanted to name that because I think that when I talk to a lot of parents, definitely a lot of mothers who are raising boys, but he don't talk, he don't say nothing, he doesn't share anything,
Yeah.
and I just want to be a organization and a person who is helping to fill those voids for families.
Yeah. I would use a takeoff on your program. We need to remove the mask and get on to our task. And our task is teaching our young men, specifically our young men, how to be human, what it means to be human. And if I would use, because you're an educator, a um, syllogistic argument, right?
Hmm.
All men are human.
Yeah.
Black men are human. Therefore, they too are human.
Yeah.
And as a human,
Yeah.
they have those same emotions: sadness, being ashamed, scared, angry, upset, and all
Yeah.
those things. And I think for fathers out there, we need to model that. And that is, as we spoke about today, Ashanti, a lot of that is through intimacy. Show them that you connect with another brother outside your family. When they hear Ashanti and Phil speaking,
Yeah.
caring for one another, checking in, that builds connection,
Yeah.
showing emotion, you are going to change a culture. And I use culture loosely because in today's society, we define culture as, we hard, hey, stay strong, brother, hey,
Yeah.
do your thing. That has been acculturated to us by the media, by social media, etc. Culture to us as a Black people meant family, meant connection. Connection is our protection, fathers. Connect with your young men out there. And this is no disrespect to young women out there, mothers. But I'm saying if statistically Black men are suffering more right now in society, gun violence, homicide, suicidal violence, we need to change the way we have socialized them. We need to change this misconstrued masculinity. Look, educator, weak is an adjective, but you and I are going to re-signify that to an acronym. WEAK, willing to express adult kindness. Brothers, try it. Try it and see what happens.
Yes, that's what I'm talking. I saw your shirt that says "Humankind be both." Oh, yeah. Like this is the next one, right? You have a shirt with this one? You have a shirt like this
one? I do not. No, okay. I do
not. Willing to express adult kindness.
Yeah. So when you call me weak, I say thank you, brother. You're right.
Yeah, you're right. Yes,
you're right. Because you know what I tell folks? I was 50 years old when my son took his life. At that point in my life, I was in the best shape I'd ever been, Ashanti. I benched 400 pounds, squat 550, deadlift 550, but I wasn't strong enough to save a life. You know why? Because I had that misconstrued masculinity when I should have been weak. I should have been, how are you feeling, son? Oh, don't give me that. I'm good. Talk to me. You don't seem right.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's be weak, brothers.
Man, so needed. Young men out there and fathers and mothers, and we're having this conversation. Phillip and I are sharing our mask publicly, and our hope is that you have somebody in your life you can share yours with. We know that everyone doesn't need to see what's behind your mask, but I hope you have at least one person. And Phil, thank you for that, because I think that when I do speak to parents and I'm trying to encourage them, right? Definitely. And a lot of here, in the Bay Area, I've experienced a lot of, mothers here who are raising these boys who are sometimes doing it by themselves, right? Or sometimes the father is either not present, so many different variations of fathers, as we know, right?
Yes, sir.
But to know that you're human and that we feel all of it. I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you named that, because so often we've been taught that, oh no, you can't show that. So we basically tell you be half human, and therefore you're walking around trying to always not feel like you fit in that, but you're told to fit in that, and the pressures and consequences are so strong that you follow along. And I think that part is so critical to their well-being. And so, look, what ways do you want people, if they want to connect with you, if there's a father out there or anyone who wants to connect with you or the work you're doing, is there any way you want people to connect with you? Is there any place out in the
They can surely tap in through my LinkedIn profile. I've got a public Facebook profile as well. And I would say this, look, this is about that mini connection. This is about that building protection through connection. Tap in through Ashanti. Ashanti got my number, and we'll build this triumvirate, right? One begets one. In the service, we called it a force multiplier. I talk to one person, one talks to three talks to six, etc. This is not simply a moment of a podcast. Your million masks, your ever forward is a movement. Right. And that's what we're trying to create here. So you reach out through LinkedIn, through the social media profiles, or just tap into my brother Ashanti, and we'll be in touch. Because I can't do it by myself. I'm about to lean on you to help as well.
It's a team. It's a community, and that's the goal of having more people in the community who want to be a part of this movement to help the world. Folks, listen, I'm overjoyed. The emotional roller coaster of this conversation has been so beautiful, and I really appreciate you, brother, for responding to my message on LinkedIn, and I appreciate you for that post, who I saw impacted a lot of people, and so thank you for being willing to do that.
Yeah.
And hey, folks, Phillip and I, we shared our mask publicly, but you can do it anonymously. You can go to millionmasks.org, make your mask there, and then maybe after you make it anonymously, you will recognize that there's so many people who are experiencing the same type of experiences. And so maybe it'll give you a little bit more courage to talk to one person. And
Yes,
then
sir.
maybe two people. And then maybe one day you'll be here with us having a conversation of how we're changing the world one mask at a time. You know what I mean?
Do it. I'd be remiss, Ashanti, if I didn't say this. Because it is the 5th anniversary of losing my son to suicide, because it's a heavy day for me. This has been part of my healing journey. Speaking with a gentleman like yourself, a solopreneur, people that are changing the culture in our spaces, it helps me immensely. I don't mean for you to carry the weight of my burden, but every time I connect with someone like you, it lessens that weight that I'm carrying.
Oh man.
It helps me to relieve that mass. So, man, this time has been valued. I appreciate you, my brother.
Well, I'm here. I am, however I can support the continual journey of that you're on with that. Please let me know, and I hope to one day get up to where you are in the world when the weather is like it is here in
I ain't mad at you.
I'm a fair weather traveler.
Hey.
I like to travel only when the weather is like it is at home. So I so appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah. Be safe.
All right, folks. Peace. See you soon. The Taking Off the Mask podcast is produced by Ryan Louie. Graphics are by Kelly Wong, and a special thanks to the team at Ever Forward, Vanessa Cortez and Choke Allen Alvarez. We'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of the creation of this podcast as we cross the 100th episode milestone and begin the work to the next 100. We hope that everyone who's been a part knows that they're a part of the Taking Off the Mask family. And we look forward to you being a part of it as well. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe, write a 5-star review, and share, as we look forward to continuing to have conversations that matter. Stay tuned for the relaunch of the Million Mask Movement on 11/11/22. That's November 11th of 2022. There's a math problem in there. You can find out more by visiting everforwardclub.org and following us on social media. Take care, and we'll see you soon.